I figured out how to get from 8 brain to big brain with these 3 laws, getting more done in less time. That one task you've been dodging and why you're procrastinating on YouTube is probably flashing in your mind right now. This chasm of procrastination deepens with time. If you're like me, it's like you're unable to pull yourself out, even when there's a mountain of tasks waiting for you. But what if I told you that to stop this chasm from deepening isn't about pushing harder, but rather it's about something entirely unexpected? Let's imagine a character, Shadow John. A mirror reflection of many of us, he's not just battling procrastination, he's fighting this internal war against overthinking, perfectionism, and those tantalizing dopamine hits. Fighting against the vices and unhealthy coping mechanisms. His primal ape brain makes things a bit difficult. What changes Shadow John's narrative is a realization that resonates with all of us. Ever notice how your brain is sometimes sunshine and rainbows, acting as your greatest supporter, full of motivation and drive, then seem to conspire against you at the worst time? Suddenly, it's the master of excuses, finding every reason to break those promises to yourself. Our brains, as powerful as it is, often opts for the path of least resistance. They crave comfort, instant rewards, and can sometimes impede our progress. If you put a box of donuts in front of John, Shadow John will come out and eat the damn donuts. Expose Shadow John to the lure of social media and he'll mindlessly scroll without a second thought. Now, social media platforms are engineered to be a casino for your attention, and the only winner is Lord Zuck.
Just how triggering are our phones when it comes to dopamine?
The amount of dopamine that's released, we think, is quite substantial. It's novel. Remember, dopamine is about novelty, surprise, and the sense that we are on some exciting track.
Rather than fighting this, let's work with it. Switching my phone to grayscale has reduced my screen time. I delete social media off my phone and it adds this friction, allowing me to think twice before I re-download it. And those real-world temptations, ruthless elimination.
Willpower is like a muscle, you can tire it out. So if you use a bunch of willpower on one thing, then you have less energy to use later on resisting temptations, staying focused, or even making good decisions.
Be it your physical or digital environment. By designing an environment to bypass the need to struggle, it'll passively work for you, not against you. It's either setting you up for success or failure.
The diligent people with high self-control apparently were just using less self-control. It was the people who planned their life so that they didn't have to use self-control that were more successful.
We do not rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems.
Wrestling with your brain is exhausting. And this all ties into law 1. Never trust your brain.
I wouldn't trust myself in my own pantry with a bunch of junk food.
If you can't remove temptation for whatever reason, here's a lab-proven hack. You already procrastinate. Let's procrastinate with intention. Simply procrastinate on breaking the good habits. You can tell yourself you can always break this good habit later, making it as easy as possible, because your inner shadow persona will come out.
I've eliminated all self-harm. There's just nothing I can do because I don't trust myself.
Our brains tend to overvalue immediate rewards compared to long-term benefits. Studies in cognitive psychology suggest that the mere temptation can increase the brain's cognitive load, making it harder to focus on the task at hand. Now, why is this important? In this game of life, as we navigate the battles of instant rewards versus long-term gains, we're trying to allocate the 3 vital resources that dictate the outcomes of our lives. And you're forced to use them, and once it's used up, you can never get it back. And this is your progress bar. Resource bar, energy bar. Anyways, life is like chess. While you can't redo previous moves, you hold the power over how the game unfolds. To get more done isn't about adding more hours to your day, it's about mastering the vital 3, time. You can get more time by reclaiming hours and automating, outsourcing, and delegating tasks not worth your time. Anything you do twice, there should be a process for it, and if there's a process for it, it can be automated. It doesn't necessarily take 2 years to get something done. It takes a few weeks of dedicated time and relentless execution, or 2 years of overthinking, then a spark of realization and action. You can collapse time by not reinventing the wheel, and knowledge collapses that time. Leveraging knowledge and other people's experiences is something I share in my newsletter, where I help people reclaim time and accelerate productivity by sharing what I've learned through my own experience and other people's experience. It's free and it's one decision away from changing your life, so check it out in the description. However, knowledge without execution is just potential. It requires a bias towards action, and here's where number 2 comes in. Energy. It comes from 2 places, internal and external. It's how you feel. You've heard of this so many times throughout your life. Rest, exercise, diet, and external. Your environment, relationships, the work you do, and other extrinsic motivators. Like a car, how much gas it has determines how far it goes. Based on the amount of energy your bodily vessel has, it can only go so far in a day. But aside from external leverage, there's also internal leverage. Synergizing to your biological clock and capturing the 3 waves of momentum. By syncing it to my biological clock, I've been able to get more done in a shorter period of time.
It's worth knowing that most people find that their level of attention and motivation is going to be highest 30 minutes, 3 hours, and 11 hours after waking up.
One of the big things that a lot of people don't recognize is something called peak time, which is this 90-minute period in a day roughly where we are way more effective than any other time of the day. And that is different for every individual person.
Test subjects were prone to perform well or hit a wall of fatigue and perform poorly. We can arrange our days around our biological peaks and troughs to consistently access flow states and peak performance.
To put our time and energy to good use, we must direct it to number 3, attention. Our attention is often scattered. Lack of prioritization typically causes this. These cycles come and go, but many times I've been in the state of being lost, not sure what to do. It's a combination of identity crisis, dwelling on the past, or fixated on the future, or shiny object syndrome. Narrow down on the vital few, which will bring you clarity over what you want. This is your compass. As there are 3 primary colors that can create an infinite spectrum of hues, the way you harness and blend your time, energy, and attention determine the outcomes to your life. Reclaim your time, increase your energy, prioritize your attention. Everything here is interlinked. You increase one and the others will benefit. By anchoring where your attention is directed, backed by time and energy, you're already ahead of 99% of people. You might be wondering what tasks deserve your most precious resources. Well, there are certain tasks that are not worth your time. Think of it from the perspective of opportunity costs. Each decision you've made canceled out all the possible decisions you could have made. To get more done in less time, we have to achieve more with less effort, and it requires a blend of high-level decision-making, strategic thinking, and problem-solving. It's not more work, it's smarter work backed by the vital 3. Directing these resources to high-leverage activities and allowing for less input and more output. There are an infinite array of variations of leverage. Let's hone in on 3. Social. Amplifying your impact through relationships. Think collaboration, delegation, and influence. How can one connection spark 1,000 actions? Want to know the fastest way to collapse time? Mentors, advisors, and coaches. Having friends and a network that has already done what you're striving to do. It just makes things so much easier to be around the right people. Technology, the silent multiplier. It automates, scales, and transforms single efforts into widespread outcomes. One-time efforts that will produce outcomes indefinitely or help streamline work. Knowledge. Knowing something and not knowing something can be the difference that changes the trajectory of your life. Another form of leverage is to narrow in on specific knowledge where it can't be easily taught or replicated.
Specific knowledge is found pursuing your innate talents, your genuine curiosity, and your passion. And all of this stuff feels like play to me, but it looks like work to others. Stuff that's just being figured out or is really hard to figure out.
All this is to earn with your mind and not with your time. If you do this right, every action is the same as someone else's 10 moves or 100 moves.
If you're operating with 1,000 times leverage, we'll literally get paid hundreds of times more by the market because of the leverage and compounding factors.
It's an unfair advantage, setting your dominoes in a way that can knock over thousands. Though these laws aren't sexy, the more you do, the easier it gets and effortless it becomes. When grounding yourself with these laws, you'll go from ape brain to big brain and turn sexy in the process. Maybe. It hasn't worked for me yet. But I have leveraged these laws to help me graduate in 1 year, which you can watch here. I graduated college in 1 year, got attention from LinkedIn, and received many messages from students and teachers on the one question: how?